All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Alex Jones. This is a special news report for folks here in Austin, Texas, and the viewers at prisonplanet.tv. I'm going to go ahead and get into some of our top stories and analyze them a little bit in this short, abbreviated 20-minute report we have for you this evening. Don't forget, my two latest documentaries are now out, In-Game, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, and Terror Storm, A History of Government-Sponsored Terror. You can watch both of those for free on Google Video. Just Google Terror Storm, A History of Government-Sponsored Terror, or In-Game Blueprint for Global Enslavement. And please spread those links out to everyone while we still have free speech on the web. I'm going to be doing presentations in the next few months with a lot of top experts about how the global corporations publicly say they're going to shut down what is known as the free internet and restrict what you can get. So that is coming up in future reports. We need to use the internet to wake people up about the New World Order while we still have it. All right. Pharmaceuticals lurking in U.S. drinking water. And there was a story in the Statesman today, and they said, well, we can't tell you about the pharmaceuticals in your water because Al-Qaeda might use that information. You trip on a banana peel, Al-Qaeda did it. The government screws something up, Al-Qaeda did it. They can't tell you about any corruption that's going on, Al-Qaeda did it. But the Statesman's a particularly bad paper, so that's why they did that, kind of like the Chronicle. We have two of the worst papers in the country right here in Austin, Texas, because they're afraid of progressive viewers, so they have to pose as fake liberals and sell you a line of crap. But here is MSNBC, pharmaceuticals lurking in U.S. drinking water, and they told you what they are. Drugs in drinking water of at least 41 million Americans. That's just where they looked at it. Drugs found in watersheds of 28 states. And growing concern over safety of cell phones for children. Herald Tribune, we're going to be going over that for you as well tonight. You'll be getting the uncensored information. Okay. Every year, the Associated Press makes phone calls and sends out letters requesting that cities give them unredacted reports of what has been found in the city drinking supplies. And Dallas refused to release the documents. Dallas just said, we're not going to tell you. Dallas, by the way, has some of the independently tested some of the worst water in the country. But the globalists mean it by design, so it's not the worst, it's the best. But when you read the names of these drugs, I already knew the names of most, but I Googled their names. Here's the molecule, and carbenzapine, and this was found. And there's the molecule right there. And people are like, well, what is that? It has been sold under names like Tegretol, Biston, Calspin, Carbatrol, Epitrol, it goes on and on. It's an antipsychotic, anti-seizure medication. Turns you basically into a zombie. You just sit in the corner and drool. And it was discovered by chemist Walter Schneider in 1953. Adverse effects. It's known to cause hormonal contraception. It goes on and on. It is basically an antipsychotic, anti-seizure drug. Now, there's hundreds of these found in your water, but that's just one of the goodies. And you read that and you don't know what carbenzapine is. Here's fluoxetine, if I'm pronouncing that right. This is the main fluoride-based serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So somebody reading that says, oh, well, what's that? It is an antidepressant of the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor class. Fluoxetine is approved for the treatment of clinical depression, including pediatric depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, on and on and on. And there it is for you. Now, see, you would read that in the AP. Of course, the Statesman decided you weren't allowed to know what was in it. I'm not kidding. That was in the Statesman today. These people are incredible. Here is sulfamethaxazole, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. is a very strong antibiotic. Okay, I got a whole bunch of these. I'm not going to spend all our time on that. The point is that they then argue, well, it's only parts per million and parts per billion of these drugs. But if you check the EPA and you look at allowable amounts and then you look at total contaminant, you can look at total chemical contaminant or you can look at total pharmacological contaminant. You could have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 parts per million of this stew. That's very high levels. A stew of drugs in major cities. But don't worry, Dr. D. Nadell gets on his radio show and says the tap water's great. I heard him this weekend. Only conspiracy theorists tell you to filter it, and sodium fluoride's good for you. Doesn't matter if I have 10,000 studies saying it destroys your kidneys, eats your brain cells, destroys your hypothalamus, pituitary, bone fractures, fluorosis, rotting of the teeth from the inside out. I mean, that's the official government admits that. Also is a toxic sedative and destroys reproductive development in all mammal species. That's why most of you are sterile out there, or semi-sterile. If you got any sperm, they're deformed, and it's a rare. You can try to have sex with your wife 500 times before you get her pregnant, or she's sterile. It's I have to have UN documents how they did it all to you. But why believe me? The government loves you. Everything's fine. Pharmacologicals lurking in U.S. drinking water. Now, we happen to know that in Singapore and other areas, they actually add it to the water. They've been caught there doing it. They do it. They have certain water supplies for certain sectors, and they test things on people. But let's just say this is all an accident. You have thousands of allowed chemicals, MBTE, arsenic, lead, mercury. The list goes on and on. Herbicides, pesticides. So those are all in there. I'm talking about with drugs, you'll get upwards of 20 parts per million of just drugs. Nicotine, caffeine, methamphetamine, the illegal drugs, all of it. And all their toxic byproducts after they've been metabolized by the body. And the hormones your body then eschews and punches out after. A lot of times the metabolized derivatives are even more toxic. And a vast array of pharmaceuticals, including antibiotics, anticonvulsants, mood stabilizers, and sex hormones have been found in the drinking water supplies of at least 41 million Americans, an Associated Press investigation shows. Now, most of the cities just said, we're not going to give you our findings. Or they'd say, yeah, we found 57 drugs, that's one in here, but we're not going to even tell you what they are. We don't have to tell you. To be sure, the concentrations of these pharmacologicals are tiny, measured in quantities per parts per billion, far below the levels of medical dose. Also, utilities insist their water is safe. Well, my God, if they say so, 1